Brothers and sisters, what's popping? Let's get it. Let's get right to it. So we're gonna pick right on up. This is a spiritual gumbo, greener pastures. I know I was supposed to be live at 5 a.m., but there was some stuff going on, so I ended up having to obviously push back till now. Anyhow, let's do a small recap of the last stuff that we went over. So that was the bull among the wolves, and that was just explaining that Abraham or Abraham at this time is has left his father's house. There was a famine in the land, so they go down into Egypt. He explains to his sister, who's also his wife, Sarah, hey, when we go down there, you're attractive. So don't tell them that we're married. Tell them that we're brother and sister. And for however long they was in Egypt, right? I'm not sure if one day Sarah just broke down and told the dude, like, yeah, that's really my brother, whoop-de-wop, but we're actually married, dotty-dotty, and everybody. I don't know. Or maybe because the pharaohs back then were the mystics, shaman kings, man gods, lowercase g, and so with that being said, he might have just been able to perceive certain things. There might be a certain divine ordinance, or what you would consider augury is not augury if it's actually related to something. And it's not just a bird flying by and you're trying to say, oh, that means the gods are telling. No. If you know what you're seeing, you know what you're perceiving, then that right there makes all the difference in dictation of circumspect and discernment. That being said, by the time they leave Egypt, Abraham is rich. Now he got gold, silver, cattle, and servants. As they're getting ready to finally depart, they have to be escorted because Pharaoh don't want no chicanery, cantankerous activities going on from Abraham. Because, bro, you didn't lie, but you didn't tell the whole truth. Right on? Because it's not, I don't know if they inquired, was she his wife? Because you got to understand, there's no nuance to the situation. It just tells us in plain the most plain details what happened, the most basic details. But it's not nuanced about the details of, okay, so did Abraham get rich through a dowry for his sister? Right. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is that why the Egyptians were salty towards the shepherds? And I'm just giving my due diligence to it now so that way when we go into this new part, we all can understand. And then I need you guys to understand, when it says cattle, it's also talking about them having horses and everything. Anything that you can bring into a battle. Oxens were used in battles all the time. There's a, suffice it to say, there is a negative application for almost everything on the earth. That's the true. It's a dynamic, but it's that's by design of free will. If one has true free will, one must be able to do as they please, even if it's to their own detriment or to the detriment of others. Let us read. And we're going to pick up verse 1, chapter 13, and move on and just keep on going on down. And Abram went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the wilderness. And Abram was very rich in cattle and silver and gold. And he went to the place whence he came, into the wilderness, as far as Bethel, as far as the place where his tent was before, between Bethel and Agai, to the place of the altar, which he built there at first. And Abram there called on the name of the Lord. And Lot went out with Abram. And Lot, who went out with Abram, had sheep and oxen and tents or cattle and land, and the land was not large enough for them to live together because their possessions were great. And the land was not large enough for them to live together. So listen, I'm balling so hard, you balling so hard. We both got so much stuff, bro. We both can't live on the same block anymore. And it's not because we don't love each other. It's just we have too much. We can't. Got to understand possessions. When you have animals that are grazing around and walking on the land, and you have people that live on the land who kind of want to have a little bit of seclusion, there's no privacy. Everything is just too open air. You know what I'm saying? We need some space. And there was there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanites and the Perizzites then inhabited the land. Now, why that was being explained to us is that they want us to understand who lives in the land. This isn't just barren land with nobody on it. You know how they tried to say that they found America, right? We just found it, right? Again, the scripture, the Most High God is so sequential, so driven by logic and by decency and order. He tells us who the inhabitants were at that time on the land. So when we understand the schism, who's around when these things are happening? Let us keep reading. Essentially, who Lot breeds with and has children with. You understand? Where are we at? And Abraham said, lo, said to Lot, let there be, excuse the low pot, I just seen, I jumped ahead too quick. And Abraham said to Lot, let there not be a strife between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we are brethren. Men, brethren. Lo, is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself from me. And if thou goest to the left, I will go to the right. And if thou goest to the right, I will go to the left. And Lot, having lifted up his eyes, observed all the country round about Jordan, that it was all watered before God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, as the garden of the Lord and as the land of Egypt, until thou come to Zagorah. Okay, now let me just pull up that little picture that I had, because that was that little download is a clean one. 1 second. Where am I? Just pull my stuff up. Well, while I'm doing this, while I'm waiting for all that to load, I'll just keep reading. 1 second. Oh. Yeah, I'd just be, there we go. Downloads. I don't have anything from yesterday. That's weird. Let's go to pictures. I hate when I do this. And I know I have it. I know it's just right here. I just don't feel like trying to search it down. But it's the thumbnail for this video though. I don't know. just think it's weird. You know, every time I'm trying to find something or just pull it up real quick, I always get this resistance. But that's okay. I don't know. I don't get mad about it. I just know that that's a bull. Anyway, want to give me 1 second, and I'll have to go into the little file because it's saved in our little temporary file. So, and for whatever reason, I can't navigate to it. It's just acting real suspicious. But but yeah, I just be laughing because it's not easy. It is not easy. Let me see what I said. But no, it's okay. I just want to give like a visualization to the people, but that's really not necessary. It's just nice to do that for y'all every once in a while. But I'm over that because I got old ass videos where I put pictures with every damn word, pretty much. Like I don't, I'm over it for that aspect. If they don't understand or don't have an active imagination, sorry for their luck. But anyway, um, what was that? Understand that Lot had the best land. Everywhere was nice. The whole earth was still nice at this point. Like even though it's whatever you want to consider to them, it was probably ran down compared to what earth used to be, right? From what they heard from all the elders and the people who lived hundreds of years. But at that time, compared to now, the earth is not ran down at all. Perfectly well. So he has, you know, plush land to choose from. And like it just said, uh, 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 before God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So that means that that land was plush, like the Garden of Delight. Anyway, let us read. And Lot chose, verse 11, for himself all the country round about Jordan. And Lot went from the east, and they gathered, and they separated from each other. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the city of the neighboring people, and pitched his tent in Sodom. So he went to the city over from where Abram is at, in the land of Canaan, right? So Sodom and Gomorrah is in that land. I need y'all to like visualize and understand that. Or that like these are, I don't know if the Canaanites and Perizzites are the people, or Pharizites. I don't know if they're the people who are actually in Sodom and Gomorrah, but because they're the inhabitants of the land, I have to assume that. You get what I'm saying? Outside of other groups who were obviously so get it. If you're an Assyrian who lives in Babylonia, but you live in the city of Tish, right? That might make you a Tishite ultimately. You get what I'm saying? Like, you have to understand how these things work. Like, yeah, you're a Babylonian. Like, okay, so I was born in Washington, right? That makes me a Washingtonian, sure. But I live in Tacoma, so I'm a Tacomanite. Does that make sense? So, sure, I'm a Washingtonian. Or even if you want to say, oh, he's an American. Ah, even they'll stand. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the Most High God's people first. First and foremost, a lowly servant. Whether I'm the stranger who is a hewer of wood and a drawer of water, it does not matter to me. Right? All that matters is that I let the people know who are truly the people, that they are the people, number one, and that they understand their place in this earth is that they're to be stewards of the earth. So as I speak to them, it's not to speak at them. And if I'm speaking at them, it's because they don't know. You can't be I don't get mad when people speak at me if I don't know something. Right on. Don't speak to me like I know it because I don't know. Speak at me so I can learn. Right. Teachers speak at you. Right. When somebody gives you instructions, they're speaking at you. Right. This is why the Most High God made the distinction when he said, and he spoke to Moses when he was in the form of a cloud, face to face, as a man would with a friend. So that way people understand he's speaking to Moses at this point. He's no longer speaking at him because he knows he can give him these instructions. He's going to follow. Now, he should have glorified his name a few times. You know, he should have let the people feel it. Too merciful to the people, but still the Most High God blessed him to see the land. But you ain't gonna go in there. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because at the waters of strife, you should have glorified my name in the midst of them chumps. Anyway, let's keep reading. And God said to Abraham, after Lot separated, whoa, excuse me. And Lot dwelt in a city of the neighboring people, and pitched his tent in Sodom. But the men of Sodom were evil and exceedingly sinful before God. Let's keep going. I didn't say this about Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm not saying how the people of Sodom and Gomorrah felt about themselves. I'm not even implying anything like that. All I'm saying is, if you read it, it says, quote, but the verse 13 of chapter 13, quote, but the men of Sodom were evil and exceedingly sinful before God. That tells me all I need to know about where Lot went. People can't tell me, oh, he's you know, even if Lot himself is all right, some of those ways are going to rub off on you. There's a reason why the Most High God has to tell the people how to conduct themselves when coming out of Egypt, and not to do of the way of the Egyptians, and not to do the way of the Canaanites in the land in which they go. And the reason for it is because you have to understand, you know, people say that term, monkey see, monkey do, but when people see somebody do something and they don't just die after they did it, they're going to think, well, God doesn't have a problem with it. Really, does he? He's not going to stop me. And then they start questioning things, as opposed to being like, the Most High God can just end it. Just like that. He doesn't need to cast a spell on you. He just speak it on you. Your mouth has the ability to save your life, and has the ability to have your life ended. That's how powerful speech is. Number one, don't ever let nobody say it's just words. You know what I'm saying? Words mean something. When you speak your words, you have to mean them. Because if you don't mean them and somebody else believes you mean those words, no matter what those words are, you can't dictate their response to what you say. That's not up to you or to me. So once I say it, that's on them and how they're going to respond. But if you just take the time and just work with me for a second. But the men of Sodom were evil and exceedingly sinful before God. That's not a perception that I'm making. That's a fact that's being said. So that's a precursor to what's wrong with Sodom. Didn't say Gomorrah. It did not say Gomorrah. It singled out Sodom for that reason. So whatever the Sodomites were into, which in their ultimate sin was being unhospitable. And we're going to talk about that real quick, because being unhospitable, if you are a person that practices a certain way and you're trying to force that onto somebody who does not live like that, that is being unhospitable. Oh, he doesn't eat pork? Well, here's a pork chop sandwich anyway. Salute, fam. You know, he doesn't drink liquor. Oh, here's some liquor anyway. You know what I'm saying? Trying to change who they are. You can't change them. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Here's some seafood. Here's whatever you don't want to deal with. It could be peanut butter and jelly. If you are not dealing with that, and somebody tries to give that to you, tries to force that on you, that's not being hospitable. So if you're talking about sexual activities now, and people being willing to go out their way to possibly force themselves onto you, right? And the question that I want everybody to ask themselves before we even get to Sodom and Gomorrah is, imagine how many men they did violate, though, going through the city, passersby. That's the precursor to my whole thought process of it. Because the pain that they inflicted on people, right, evil and exceedingly sinful. Let us keep reading. And God said to Abraham, verse 14, after Lot was separated from him, look up with thine eyes, and behold, from the place where thou art now, where the place thou now art, northward and southward, eastward and seaward. For all the land which thou seest, I will give it to thee and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed like the dust of the earth. Woo. Then shall thy seed be numbered. Arise and traverse the land, both in the length of it and the breadth. For to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And Abraham, having removed his tent, came and dwelt by the oak of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and he built there an altar to the Lord. Now we're gonna keep reading because that's a short chapter, and I wanted to get into this next piece where it starts to get real action like, and I want to break some of this down again. So, number one, this is a man who does not have children at that time. We got to really put this in perspective. He's getting older, right on? He's not getting younger. None of us have gotten younger. So this is a man. There is no FaceTime. There is no X, right? There is no Meta, right? There ain't no TikTok, no Instagram, none of that. So this is a man who's literally, first off, seeing the Christ face to face. He's not seeing the Most High God. He's seeing the Christ. I can't express that enough. I know people want to think otherwise, but truthfully, he's dealing with the Christ. Outside of that, this man is being told that his children shall be like the dust of the earth, innumerable pretty much. Like, when's the last time you counted sand or even tried to? Right. That's how many the people were supposed to be. They're supposed to just be just deep, right? You see what I'm saying? Just deep. Problem is, like I said, some people don't think that him being older, he's believing this for sure. He's faithful, but he's like, man, when am I going to have all these babies? Right? So one of the most basic precursors that I want people to understand is that, like, you can have children whenever you want to. Number one. It's just the older you get, the less time you're going to have with them numerically, right on, and logically and literally. So my stance on it is real basic. Apples to apples, they would have had a bunch of white bulls between him and Sarah at this point. That's her name. And so what would have happened is that, nation of bulls. Again, that wasn't written in the book of Enoch. So that's not how it gets to work out. They're sheep. So the Genesis or genosis has to take place within the bloodline for them to become from being a bull to being sheep. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. We're in a diminished form of self. This is not our greatest form of self. Some of us know it, right on? It's not just based on height and stature. It's based on like it's based on everything. Uh, a bull does not get treated like a sheep does. It's how they treat you ultimately, right on? And we're not treated like bulls. You can think you're being a bull or being bullish. These are words to describe things, but the Most High God knows you. So if a person is really a crow, they can talk about how they got a lion heart or they a tiger spirit. They can talk about, but the Most High God is like, that's a crow saying that. That's a whoever saying that. So they don't really have much to stand on because they're not they're not speaking from a position of authority. Enoch was told this by the greatest authority. Enoch lived before all the people that we're reading about. So when we just give the understanding of what the greener pastures is, I'm trying to explain that at this point, the land is beautiful, it's lovely, and that cannot be emphasized enough. This is the kind of land that when you step on it, you see it, you're like, man, I need a piece. I need in. And understandably so. I need in. People just don't get it. It's not it's not by chance that these things happen. You know, they're most definitely done with intent. And it's it's unfortunate that as I read something like this, as we get ready to go forward, verse 1 of chapter 14, and it came to pass in the reign of Armarphal, king of Sinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, that Kedalagomer, king of Elam, and Targal, king of nations, made war with Bala, king of Sodom, and with Barsa, king of Gomorrah, and with Sinar, king of Adama. Right on? So there's a guy whose name is the same name as the land that this other. You know how people be having names like somebody named a child like Phoenix. You know, there's a place named Phoenix, Arizona. So like your name has land association or terrain association with it. Um, um, Somebody might name a child like their daughter June or May or something like that, and their name has association. That's not just their name, but their name is associated with something. You know, somebody named August or Augustus, right? It all just depends. But still, you guys get the point that I'm making. Like that's how it's supposed to be. If we're supposed to be able to see these things and understand, that's just like somebody being named a name like that today. Basic association to what we're reading. I'm at that point where we have to break down nuance as we get right to it. Because if I don't do it right then and there, I might have it in my mind to speak on it. I might not ever get to it. Anybody who knows, sometimes I just get on scatterbrain mode where I just go from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and I'm just, as it comes to my mind, I'm just shooting off the thoughts, and then I'll bring it together. Now, back to the reading. All these met or agreed with one consent at the Salt Valley. Now, this is now the Sea of Salt, the Dead Sea. So this is so far back, right on, that before people called it the Dead Sea, it was just called the Sea of Salt. And I'm sure this is how people who lived on the coast got their salt, right? Hence the word sea salt. I know people don't want to hear that. Like, right, like, yeah, clearly the Israelites had to have cooked with sea salt. a whole bunch of it. That would have been the most natural, normal salt to get, other than um, salt mines that are located in other places, but those places are almost always landlocked. They have tributaries that run through them, but they don't have water like that in them. You get what I'm saying? And those are the places that will attack you for water. Anyway, or try to aqueduct their way into the water. They'll do that, that little sneaky nonsense too. But anyway, let's keep going. All these met with one consent at the Salt Valley. This is now the Sea of Salt. 12 years they served Kedalagomer, and the 13th year they revolted. And in the 14th year came Kedalagomer. So he gave them a year to see if they wanted to act right. Like, bro, listen, we all agreed on one consent. Now, did the kings press them? Were they pressed to agree to one consent? We don't know. Again, we weren't there, so we don't know what happened. But the Most High God blesses us by telling us that this was an event, that what led up to this is this event. Right on? So, and these are kings, right? These aren't regular peons, plebes, and general population peoples having a disagreement. These are kings. Now, again, is it by chance that that the guys in Sodom, right, in particularly, right, but Sodom and Gomorrah are together in this deal because they're twin cities. You understand? So, but Sodom's men are what? Evil and exceedingly sinful. So we have to keep that in mind when we hear about this agreement, because maybe it's not that the tribute, right, was too much. Maybe the men are just evil. And just, you know what I'm saying? They just don't want to do that. Right. It's actually very plausible. It's like somebody who doesn't want to pay the plug his middleman fee. You know what I'm saying? Like, he charges you this much to get it. It costs him this much, but he charges you this much. And he's upfront about it. You're going to pay him his finder's fee. And you try to find ways to get the plug out the middle. You might even go right to his man's because you might do some backdoor nonsense. And then, now you're trying to deal directly with the source. Some people will hurt you over that. Some people will get you all the way out of here for that, because now you're messing with the money. Now you're trying to take food out of my mouth, clothes off of my back. You know what I'm saying? A roof from over my head. And that's not a thing to be proud of. It's just a very simple matter of fact. Dairy veins, back then, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy. And so people aren't really visualizing what's happening right now, right? They haven't peopleized it, you know what I'm saying? And personalized it to themselves to be like, you know what, now it makes sense. It's like living in a place like Chicago, and we'll pick we'll say Chicago, East St. Louis, Milwaukee, Detroit, and Cleveland are all agreeing to pay New York, Jersey, Philly, right on? You know what I'm saying? Right? Harlem, right? Let's just pick them. And now all of a sudden the Chicago niggas is like, I'm over it. Right? Even though the deal is not a bad deal, we all agreed to this. This is what that is. So we're looking at and dealing with, and this would be like the head dudes. These wouldn't be regular foot soldiers on the streets, dudes who might be shooters or whatever like that. Nah, we're talking about head honchos. These dudes they're no longer in the streets. They don't have to catch scalps anymore. You know what I'm saying? If they ever did catch any hats, and if they didn't catch any hats, they worked their way up without having to do all that. But the point I'm making is this, is now you got the dudes who are more established, right? Because that would be the idea. And people forget that Canaan is a servant to his brethren. The Elamites are Semites, right? The people who were in Shinar, a whole lot of them are Semites, right? Some of them are Hamitic, but they're not Canaanites, right on? They're not from the seed of Canaan, so they don't have a servitude um, predisposition, because that's how this ended up happening. I'm trying to break it all down. See, that's why understanding all those little things gives us real insight to these moments. And so we can really pinpoint and really poke at, right? Is it just by chance that Canaan, his children, are just, off the chain? This dude got cursed. We never know how that really messed with him, how that developed into. Again, what little we can get from this, we have to pull, so we have to extrapolate so much from it, so that way we can really start to really put a feel to what we're reading. And it's not just words on the page. Let us keep reading. And in the 14th year came Kedorlaomer, and the kings with him, and cut to pieces the what? The giants and Ashtaroth and Carnaim and the strong nations with them, and the Omians and the city Save, and the Corians and the city, and the mountains of Seir, to the turpentine tree of Paran, which is in the desert. And having turned back, they came to the well of judgment. This is Cadiz. And they cut in pieces all the princes of Amalek and the Amorites dwelling in Asathamar. And the king of Sodom went out, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Adama, and the king of Sebawing, and king of Balak. This is Segor. And they set themselves in array against them for war in the Salt Valley, against Kedorlaomer. King of Elam, and Targal, king of nations, and Armaphal, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elasar, the 4 kings against the 5. Now the Salt Valley consists of slime pits. And the king of Sodom fled, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Sodom fled, and the king of Gomorrah, and they fell in there. And they that left fled to the mountain country. And they took all the cavalry of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their provisions and departed. And they took also Lot, the son of Abraham's brother, and his baggage, and he departed, for he dwelt in Sodom. Stop right there. Now understand, it's telling us these kings who came back, Kedorlaomer and them, got down on them, cut them to giants. Now I need y'all to understand. When it says cut to pieces, you think that's allegory? Do y'all think that's symbolism? Because I think when it says cut to pieces, I think it means that they literally cut these dudes to pieces. And they put the hurt on these dudes so bad that the king of Sodom and Gomorrah, when they was running through, they fell into the slime pits. It's giving us a breakdown of what happened to these dudes. That's damn near acid, y'all. That's damn near acid. Okay? You fall into a slime pit that's based from salt, that's damn near acid. Them niggas disintegrated in that bitch. Excuse me. Woo! Almost made me want to take a shot thinking about that. But anyway. So understand that all this is taking place, right? Now Lot had what? Cattle, asses. That's right. You see what I'm saying? He had all that stuff. Right. Horses. Okay then. He had all that. So when he went into the city, now, did the people of Sodom force him? Persuade him? Extort him? Like, what did they do? Again, why is he out there? I'm going to compare Lot to when homeboy in the book of Judges, remember he's the priest, he's traveling, right? Now, again, they're saying that his situation was whatever, so he got up out of there. But my thing is like, why was it like that? Why did he even have to? Of course, God's plan was for everybody to have exposed Benjamin, so that way they could see how wicked the tribe had become. You know, um, and long story short story shorter, but it just, and the consequence for Benjamin, I'm not going to say was of Sodom and Gomorrah proportions, but it literally was like, wiped out like a whole, it almost did in the whole tribe to where they become half Philistines by default. You know what I'm saying? Because of that. Because they were like, don't let your sons breed with their daughters and don't let your daughters breed with their sons. But they went and took a whole bunch of Philistine women. You could say kidnapped, whatever you want to say. What you put the word there, you could say human trafficking. Okay, they people trafficked them. Whatever word you want to put there, that happened. But they weren't the only ones doing that. But again, there is no 911. People read the Bible from today's perspective and they don't get into that mental time machine. I'm glad that you said what you said. Dangerous vibes around that time of living, because that can't be overstated. You can't say that enough. You can't. These are extremely dangerous. Cut them into pieces. Cut them into pieces, bro. Then the other kings fell into the slime pits. I'm thinking Lot was like, I'm not fighting for this. I'm not dying for this. Right. But that messed with his finances. You get what I'm saying? That messed with his money. Let's just keep reading, though. And one of them that had been rescued came and told Abram, the Hebrew, the pastor over the river Euphrates. And he dwelt by the oak of Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Anun, who were confederates with Abram. Now listen, the Amorites got touched up, okay? The children of Amalek got touched up. So naturally, the Amorites want to do something about their people getting hit up like that, getting cut into pieces and whatnot. Right. Naturally. Let's keep reading. And Abram, having heard that Lot, his nephew, had been taken captive, numbered his own homeborn servants, 318. Now, I don't care what nobody says. How many people right now got 318 riders that they can say, hey, let's ride out? And they got the equipment and the gear to give to all these men. Come on. And women possibly. And pursued them to Dan. And he came upon them by night, he and his servants, and he smote them. And he pursued them as far as Choba, which is on the left of Damascus. And he recovered all the cavalry of Sodom. And he recovered Lot, his nephew, and all his possessions, and the women and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after he returned from the slaughter of Kedalagomer, and the kings with him, to the valley of Sabi. This was the plain of the kings. Now, in my personal take, this king is not the same dude that was in the Salt Valley. You hearing what I'm saying? It's a different person who's been anointed king. Because we obviously read that this dude fell into a slime pit. And if y'all want to believe that this dude made it out of there somehow, believe that. I just think that it has a highly acidic nature. Maybe he did make it out. Maybe he was all the way touched up and messed up looking like what's his name? Toxic Avenger. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was looking all Toxic Avengered out. Maybe he made it. But he would not have been looking good, y'all. He would have been hurting. Believes that. That's a fact. Where we at? And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth loaves, bread, and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. Stop right there. And he blessed Abraham and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, who made heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, who delivered thine enemies into thine power. And Abraham gave him tithe of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abraham, Give me the men and take the horses to thyself. And Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I will stretch out my hand to the Lord, the Most High God, who made heaven and earth, and that I will not take from all thy goods from a string to a shoe latchet, from a string to a shoe latchet, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abraham rich. Except the things which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men that went with me, Eshcol, Anun, Mamre, these shall take a portion. Stop right there. Again, now here in the Septuagint, it's not as nuanced as my Holy Bible Concordance, right? My Holy Bible Concordance, the Schofield Reference Bible, that joker has it broken down, because it breaks down the entity that they believe Melchizedek was speaking on, and it's actually not the Most High, right on? But again, people worship different things, and they believe that there's an equivalent to the Most High, but there isn't. And this is why Abraham says what he says, because he's like, nah. He's feeling like whatever God, pretty much trying to say, whatever God bless me is not the God that right. My God that blessed me, right on? I don't need nothing from you, bruh. Nothing. Now, another thing that I was feeling, because Melchizedek says this. Now, is Melchizedek the king now over Sodom, right, and Salem? Because he's left living? Because, again, they don't separate his character. Let me read that one more time and let's break that down. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth loaves and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed Abraham and said, Blessed be Abraham of the Most High God, who made heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, who delivered thine enemies into thine power. And Abraham gave him the tithe of all. And the king of Sodom said to Abraham, Give me the men and take the horses to thyself. Or Calvary, whatever. And Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I will stretch out my hand to the Lord, the Most High God, who made the heaven and the earth, that I will not take from all thy goods from a string to a shoe latchet, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abraham rich, except what things the young men have eaten, and the portion of men that went with me. Now, unless they're trying to say that both these dudes are present and they're like having a conversation all kind of together, which is a possibility, it almost conflates like this is the same dude. This is why, you have to read it carefully. Now, to me, again, if you're telling me that this dude made it, he's looking like Toxic Avenger. He's not looking well. And he's talking crazy. Okay? And he's talking crazy. He's trying to lay out parameters for the man that done rescued your people. Nigga, you make no sense. Right on? And that's why Abraham was like, nah, bro, this is all you. None of this is us. And only what we ate, only what the young men ate, are we worried about. Does that make sense? I don't care about nothing. And I felt that. I'm not taking nothing from you, bro, unless you say you made me rich. That is one of the coldest, most gangster lines in the whole Bible. And I love telling people that to this day. Right on? They'll do nothing for me unless they say they made me rich. They're not going to have that title. Right on? They're not going to have that title. Right. These other people made them rich, gave them riches. I'm going to get mine, like they say, out the mud. The real way. And if I can't get it like that, then I just won't have it. That's a fact. Anyway, let us keep reading. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, fear not, Abram, I shield thee. Thy reward shall be very great. Now, why would he have to tell the man to fear not if he wasn't talking all kind of dog? Come on. Bro, Abraham was talking that talk. As people like to say, talk that. He was talking that talk to do. Okay? Like literally just laced him up. Period. And I'm not tripping. It don't matter. People want to say Melchizedek is the Christ. No, he's not. No, he's not. Melchizedek is not the Christ. The Lord that he's been dealing with is the Christ. Right on? The Most High God that he's speaking on is above the Lord. No doubt. I'm not talking about all capital letters, Lord, right on? But when you see the word Lord, right, I'm talking about basic stuff. Anyway, the point is this. When Abraham was talking, and he was talking big stuff, why would he have to be told, fear not? Why? Again, if you didn't do anything that was offensive or that could be found offensive, there's no need to tell you something like that. Abraham felt like what he did was offensive, and he did it to kings. Now, understand, at this point, Abraham is not considered a king. This is why what he did was so, he's talking to kings like that. But you got to understand, him and his 318 servants would have probably wrecked them, touched those dudes all the way up. Again, they didn't save their own people. They couldn't even save themselves. Right. The giants from all over got sliced down. You know what I'm saying? For real, for real. So it's like, it's just one of them things where I understand that the people understand it a certain way and they don't be keeping it funky. You know, they like to try to play that game with themselves in their minds. And we're still talking about greener pastures, but this is where we get ready to taper off and end this joint and look forward to what's coming next. You know, and this is the real promise that we've been waiting for. And I love the action. You know, I love reading about people getting sliced down. Love it. Love it. Because it's, first off, I have an overactive imagination. Even at this age, you know, my imagination be running wild. So I knew for a fact when I was reading this, I was like, some of these dudes had to been practicing magic, all kinds of stuff. Like even Abraham himself might have been what you would call a battle mage for all intents and purposes. There's no telling what level of skill or understanding in those arts, in the dark arts that he had. No one knows. Right on? You guys think conjuring a black flame is a big deal? These dudes are, stop it. These dudes were, anyway, the sort of stuff that they was doing to the dudes back then, I don't even want to think about. Cats literally opening up portals and sending dudes like for real to like Hades, to Sheol, to hell, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Like the real life stuff that people don't know about. The real life like they put it in a video game. They can do all that all they want to. And I think a lot of that stuff is sensationalized. But a real base level actionable spell, I think, would look a lot grittier. And I'm pretty sure the casters themselves would be hurt. You know, to put electricity or to put fire out of your body would probably burn you. You know what I mean? So it's like one would have to learn restoration spells and like know how to like virtually heal themselves, And all that would come through, using salves and creams and ointments. Like, again, those things were shown to the people by the fallen angels. Like, a lot of folks don't realize everything they're using is a potion or some kind of elixir. It is. If you take it from its base form and you transmutate it alchemically, and you make it something else that has an applied use, right? No matter what the use is, again, there's a good way to do something and a bad way to use that same thing, right? No matter what that is, it can those things can be done. Again, what you call a bomb right now, missiles, that's all witchcraft and sorcery, right on. The that's the evil end of the spectrum of that technology. We have yet to see the true benevolent end of it, because they're not, again, those who have the power of the magic right now, they're not benevolent. Right. They've weaponized every single business against people. There is not one business that has had success that has not been weaponized in some sort of way. It's just what they do. So when we're reading this kind of stuff, we got to understand, like, again, these are dangerous times. These are extremely dangerous people. Right on? Do you think a sheep could have gotten done what Abraham got done? Again, in verse, a ram. Put a ram there. You think a ram could have done this? No, it took the bull to do this. And I'm not poo-pooing us. I'm just telling people what it is. You want to say you come from kings and queens? Well, this is what a real king can do. A real king can muster up hundreds of people and in the middle of the night go and strike and listen with deadly efficiency. Warrior kings. These are real life warrior kings. The dudes that y'all done read about who were alive in the last 150 years, 200 years, these guys call themselves kings. They're kings and queens in names only. Because a real one has to go out there. A king only has what he has by the strength of his arm, by the might of his arm. That's it. That's how you used to have things back in the day. It's not like that anymore because they have the gun. The gun gives a weak individual power that they really don't have. And it's an illusionary power. You understand what I'm saying? It's not real power. A car is no different. A car gives people an illusion of power. Right on? You don't really have power without it. So really, it's not as real as it may be, the tangible harm that it can do. It's not a real thing all by itself. And people don't understand this. See, we're living in a time where, again, they conflate scripture to allegory. But what we read, none of it seemed like allegory to me. And we're going to read this last little part. And then we're going to cut off from the scripture. And Abraham said, Master and Lord, what wilt thou give me? Whereas I am departing without a child, but the son of my sect, my homeborn female slave, this Eliezer of Damascus is mine heir. And Abraham said, I am grieved since thou hast given me no seed, but my homeborn servant shall succeed me. And immediately there was a voice of the Lord to him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come out of thee shall be thine heir. And he brought him out and said to him, Look up now to heaven and count the stars, if thou shalt be able to number them fully. And he said, Thus shall be thy seed. And Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am God that brought thee. Now listen, there's a distinction between the power levels here now. Because now the Most High is making himself known, speaking to him, but he doesn't know his name. Again, this is why when he calls on the name of the Lord, he's calling on the Christ, right? Because Moses is going to be told when we get all the way there to the Exodus, right? Nobody knew my name until you. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. After taking him down like that, bro. Oh yeah, bro. He feeling good, bro. Yeah, man. He, you know. And he said, I am God that brought thee out of the land of the Chaldeans, so as to give thee this land to inherit. And he said, Master and Lord, how shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said to him, take for me a heifer in her 3rd year, and a she-goat in her 3rd year, and a ram in his 3rd year, and a dove and a pigeon. So he took all these and divided them in the midst, and set them opposite each other. But the birds he did not divide. And birds came down upon the bodies, even upon the divided parts of them. And Abram sat down by them. And about sunset, a trance fell upon Abram. And lo, a great gloomy terror falls upon him. And it was said to Abram, thou shalt surely know that thy seed shall be a sojourner, in a land not their own, and they shall enslave them, and afflict them, and humble them 400 years. And the nation whomsoever they shall serve, I will judge. And after this, they will come forth hither with much property. End. We'll stop right there. I love reading that part. It's a reminder that this is who it's about. Oh, the medieval times got nothing on that stuff, bro. The medieval times was like this cream puff chronic I'm smoking on. Okay, cream puff compared to that. Okay, it was not. There was nothing and nobody's. And I got a couple more minutes before I gotta ragtag my way on out of here. I'll pour up a little something. It's that Tullamore Dew, that Irish whiskey. If only some black people out here in America would just triple distill some whiskey, maybe I need to do it. But if only some brothers already making some whiskey could just do it like that, I'll buy it all up. I won't drink it all, but I'll buy it all up. And it'll be all I ever promote. Because I know we can do it just as smooth, if not better. And that right there is some good stuff. Love it. But back to the stuff. Abram goes into this spectral mode. We don't know. I mean, obviously, but there's this blood around him because he's killing these animals, right? So there's blood all over there. So the frequency from the blood is pulsating and moving, doing its thing. It's obviously the birds are coming around because there's this fire there, right? The frequency from the flame, all this stuff is just causing again, it sends him into a trance. And they said, was it right? Terror. Now, he's not going to be alive to see his seed get sold into bondage or none of that. But he's being told what's going to happen to his seed. Right. That we're going to be taken off the land and then brought back. Now, people's like, Meech, why do you always say you could be the stranger? Because just in case I'm not the people, I like to feel like I am. I like to think that I am. But just in case I'm not the people, I cover that. This was a fun one. I had a lot of fun doing this one because I got to really read some people getting touched up and been a just it's just one of them things. It's just one of them things where we got to start as people taking it a lot more serious. The scripture needs to be taken a lot more serious. We haven't been here for 400 years. Uh, Again, Benjamin Banneker. I can't stress enough how dudes like Benjamin Banneker remind me of a sodomite. An evil and exceedingly sinful man. He's an evil man for harming the perception of time the way he did, and he's exceedingly sinful because I know he did it on purpose. You know, um, um, we got all these false prophet type of dudes, who were no different than Melchizedek, right? You know, Worshiping some god called El Elyon, right? I've never heard of that individual. I'm sure it was a known god. Whatever the real way to say it, I'm sure that god was known to the people back in those days. Just like people know about Siddhartha Gautama, right? AKA Buddha, right? Uh, they talk about again some of the lesser known religions. Let's say Taoism, right? And their prophet or their man god is supposed to be an individual called Laozi. And it's rumored that Laozi is not actually one person, but multiple individuals who lived, different people who lived over different sets of time, who just contributed to the belief of Taoism. Neither here nor there. But the point that I'm making is that whatever name you have for a god right now, people had known gods back then that were known to them. So when people say the word pagan, they're not actually expressly saying what gods they believed in, because paganism is a worship. You could just say of them worshiping the trees and the nature. Okay, but what name gods of dominion? Right on, right, exactly. Because they're regional spirits. Um, One of the greatest lessons I think anybody ever gave on this was Baptized the Scribe years and years and years ago. And he was breaking down how when the scribe is banishing the evil spirits from the man, they pretty much suffer them not to leave the region. So pretty much don't banish us from the region. And that's why uh, he put their spirit in the swine, right? And then they jumped off the cliff, so that way their spirit, that frequency, that energy, could be re-released into the environment. Right. This is deep now. So when we're dealing with people who don't even recognize, spectra and frequency are something that matter. This is called a spirit right here. They call these spirits. Now, I really believe that has to do with the distillation process. How it's distilled, what sort of wood you let it age in, because different kinds of wood have different kinds of frequency. Um, if the land that the wood was grown on was a land that was being mistreated with intent to mistreat, or was it being mistreated on base level negligence, um, all of it matters. It all plays a part. Before I get ready to head out here in this next couple of minutes, I just have to say this. People have become so accustomed to being, um, what's what I'm looking for, contrarians, right? They're against something just because. They're contrarians for the sake of contrarianism. I'm not like that. I'm the kind of person who's like, look, if you say something or you do something and you're right, I'm not going to say what you did was wrong when I just saw that it was the right way to do it. Let's say I don't know how to, I'm going to give you a really great example. People toss pizza dough all the time at my job, right? They toss it in the air. I never do that. Never do that. I just don't. I just hand stretch my dough. My shits be perfect. They be beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to have the mentality to do things a certain way yourself. You can't let people think for you. You just can't. You really just can't not let them think for you. You can take an applied thought, and in that applied thought, you can try to apply it to situations that it may be apropos to do so. But as far as allowing for somebody to try to put the frequencies into your mind that change how you think, that change how you go about things, and then, like I always try to tell people, you don't have to believe in the Most High God, but just imagine that He's really real and He's watching everything that you do. Do you want to be held accountable at the end of this for being negligent? Because it's going to be some sort, like, I'm sure in heaven there's some sort of word for the ordinance or like the legality that people are going to be break. I know for a fact. But why try to explain something to somebody who's not going to understand it or who's going to question it? Again, being a contrarian just to be one. This is why the scripture is not meant for people who want to be contrarians. Right on? Nobody goes at Buddhism like they go at the Bible. Nobody goes at the Bible like nobody goes, listen, the way they go at the Bible is unheard of. And the Most High God is clearly the most famous individual on the whole earth. I'm not talking about their confusion and conflation of different gods who they say is the Most High God. Right on? I'm talking about the damn old like people who really sit around. Like, for example, imagine this. It didn't take missionaries going to China to convince them that they wanted a different way of life. Right. Once they showed up and there was an alternative way, they were like, bro, we're about that. Why would they not be? Why would they not be about that? You mean to tell me that sleeping with my daughter is wrong and eating dogs and cats is messed up? Oh, I got to change it all up. But they might have been wanting to change that whole thing. That might not have ever sat right with some of those people. Gentiles or not. That might not have ever sat right with them, their way of life. This is why the scripture has so much pull with people. Because it's telling you to get right. And it's the only book that tells you to get right. And in 5 books, right? You know what I'm saying? It tells you everything you need to do. If you live by only the first 5 books, you are going to be better off than 99.99% of other people who do not. Because you're not reaching and needing anything else. I just use the book of Enoch to stress the fact that there's a story of the whole entire scripture already told to us. And I've been doing my best to figure out where exactly are we at in the timeline so that way I can pinpoint some of these events that are about to come up. I don't fancy myself no prophet, but I do be ahead of my time. And I do say things that it takes a while for it to matriculate and percolate, right on? You know, all those good words, right? To manifest, right? It's not just an overnight process with me. I'm not trying to be a shock jockey for tomorrow. I want people to see this shit coming down the pipeline so they can make righteous decisions to get out the way when these things do happen, because they're gonna happen. They are going to happen. And when they do, man, you know, God help us. For real, because we're going to be in trouble. We as a people are going to be in trouble. We're not just going to be... The free ride is over for a lot of us. And I'm not saying that we have a free ride in particular. I'm saying that there's been a lot of brothers and sisters that have been on a free ride. And this country has given them more than their fair share. Given. They ain't had to do one day. They ain't did a day of honest work a day in their life. I know it's hard to believe there's people like that, right? But they exist. They exist. They're real. They are on the earth. They live. Like the movie, they live. And it's our job to differentiate what we're dealing with. Now I bless the most high God. I always do, I always will, I always have, I love him. You know, I'm glad that he put me through the trials and tribulations and the things that I've gone through these last years, because it's given me a perspective that I just never had. Uh, Giving me a calm that I didn't even know I could achieve. Where I was sure I was always going to be like simmering at all times, and I've relaxed so much. People don't know me, so they don't know. But people who know me know, like, he has relaxed a lot, because I'm at that point where I'm like, I see it all lining up, and I'm like, there's not going to be anything they can do come that day. Like how they went and just got Maduro, right? He couldn't stop them. It's going to be like that. They're not going to be able to stop the Most High God. They're destructive and wickedly evil imaginations that make them believe that they could even stand up against him and to him. I mean, y'all do realize that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who think they can fight with God. Some of his very own supposed to be children are in league with these wicked devils and have no idea what it is that they're trying to get them to do. They have no idea. Like, I laugh. They act as if he's just going to just let it go. Whatever device they're trying to implement is clearly one that's what I'm looking for. It's interdimensional. It doesn't. It's quantum or something. It's not a normal weapon. It's not a gun or a laser or anything like. It would have to be something to do with dematerialization or dispersion of atoms. Pretty much trying to like break down his molecular structure. Now, again, do these guys, for them to even have the wicked thoughts coursing through their minds to try to do something to the Father, it makes me want to just get up and just tear all this shit up. But I know today's not the day. But their time is coming where whatever they've got planned to get, because you got to understand, America's just one country. There's other countries on the earth. Some of these countries have an axe to grind. They feel like against the Father. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Imagining that this heathen as a nation is a vain thing, but the people who are actually people and not Gentiles, imagining something like trying to stop the Father, like, what are we talking about here? But I have to bring it out so that way you understand this is what you're up against. You think the Chinese love the Father? You think the Indians love the Father? You think the Pakistanis love the Father? Hell, you think the French love the Father? You think the North Koreans love the Father? What about the Cubans? You think they love him? Okay then. Do you think Americans love the Father like that? For again, y'all, why are all these places armed to the teeth, and for what? If they were going to use nukes on each, I'm talking about really use them, they would have been used them already. What are y'all waiting for to attack? What do you think you're going to do when he gets here? Do they think they're going to nuke him or something? Like, what the hell is in their minds, y'all? They've got something wickedly right. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? Black people have been the crux behind our own destruction for hundreds of years, if not thousands. We've been the one constant factor. Unfortunate, but truth. And whatever these bastards are planning, There's some nigga somewhere cackling. Some bastard in a cave in the Middle East laughing his ass off. I can't stress it enough. This shit is not a joke. Whatever they're trying to do is something wickedly evil. Now, he don't need our help. They can't do nothing to him. But it's like they would possibly kill the whole earth trying to do something to him. I need y'all to understand that. The earth, right, we're going to need a new earth if these fools get their way. Like, nobody understands that. They are onto something wickedly evil. DARPA, HARP, all that kind of stuff is no good. And people are going to find out the hard way, the evil way. Again, whatever they're trying to conjure up to fight against the Father with, even if they're not trying to use nukes or conventional weapons against him. Like I said, some sort of quantum, something that I cannot imagine they're trying to do. Why else do you think they're so bent on the destruction of the earth? Again, y'all, we're enslaved in this land. We're oppressed in this land. If you're trying to outlive that or trying to outdo that, you've already done yourself a disservice and a injustice to all the people who are around you, who need you to be strong so that way they know what strength looks like. Strength isn't being able to lift up 500 pounds. That's not the kind of power that people need to see sometimes. Sometimes people need to see you have the ability to walk away. Sometimes people need to see that you have the ability to persevere. I'm here for the people. I want them to be here for themselves, though. Continue to praise and bless the Most High God, because what little you do have is more than enough. Trust me. Trust me. What little I have is more than enough. Don't be afraid of what they got planned, but just know that they don't want us to leave, y'all. They don't want the 400 years to be up, and it's coming up. And when we leave with much property. Right. When we leave up out of here, we leave with much property, y'all. Even the lame shall have much loot. It's just a reminder that as the people lived during those times, they didn't believe that these things were going to happen. So why would I expect the people to believe me now? The greatest prophet ever, people ignored him and didn't listen to him. So what is a regular plebe, a regular man, to the greatest prophet ever? Nothing. Right. But I'm aware of my position. I'm self-aware. So that's why I'm able to deliver the message without consternation or trepidation. Do I feel it for other things? Sure. But when I'm speaking on the scripture, the only time I feel it is when I think that people don't understand the gravitas of the situation. I love y'all. Man, it's been an awesome day. I'm glad I was able to come and sit down for a second. We will be doing this again very soon. And we're not going to try to power through the scripture like I did years and years ago. We're just going to keep etch-a-sketching. And in this next one, I'm thinking I'm going to have to go back and read some more of the, and just to reiterate that the bull begat a wild ass, right on, and the white bull. So when we get to the part where Ishmael is born, and then we get to the part where Isaac is born, we start to, and then the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Because that's coming up here real soon. Like when we start to really get into the um, the happening of events, and I continuously compound the information of these people are from a bloodline that was cursed to be slaves and servants. I can't stress that enough. There's a certain bloodline of people that were cursed to be slaves and servants. Right. So the only way for this to happen is for the people to blood mix with these other people. Right. That's it. You can't have it both ways. I know black people want to have it, but you can't have it both ways. We can't have already been here and be the people. That goes against the scriptural foundation. Okay, they don't want to think that the Bible's real. They think that the Bible's fake. Okay, then don't bother black people. Listen, we don't want to hear none of that psychobabble. Because at the end of the day, if they're claiming to be natives, that means that they have to admit that natives turncoated on one another, and that they're the reason why they all fell in the first place. They have themselves to blame. They cannot blame black people that were brought here. Period. Period. Cannot blame us. They can blame themselves. But if they want to talk about the real, like the actual facts, then we could talk about the facts. That sure, some of us have lineage that has people who are native, indigenous, aboriginal to the land. Sure, that's that's all fine and dandy. But you can't have it both ways. You can't be, oh, I'm an indigenous native person and a Hebrew. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because God only sees you as one. One, he's right. So you're either a stranger to his people or you're the people. You don't get to have it both ways. Again, the people that are being contrarians for contrarian's sake, those are again, it's not just one thing that we do, brother. It's not just one thing we do, sisters. It's all the shit that we do that people don't understand, you know. And we're in a time where it's just dangerous to be alive. It's a dangerous time. It's an exciting, exhilarating time to be alive, but it's dangerous right now. And people need to be not just on their best behavior, but they just need to be extremely wise about the company that they keep and about the things that they're doing and that they're saying, because they will be forced to pay for it at some point. With that said, may tomorrow be better than today, and may your next week surely be better than your last. We'll be back at it here real soon. I salute you. Salute you again. I salute you once more. Spiritual Gumbo.